There we go. Welcome, everybody, to Selling Final Expense by Phone. This presentation is sponsored by both SEMA, which is the Senior Insurance Marketing Association, as well as FEX Quotes, which is the no-exam whole-life comparative quote engine. So thanks, everybody, for attending today. Now, first off, let's talk a little bit about what we're going to be getting into here. First, we have some introductions of our fine speakers and myself. And then we'll talk about how do agents sell final expense. We did a recent survey. We'll fill you in, see where you fit in. And then we'll talk about selling final expense by phone. And Steve Modell and Adam Barco will weigh in on what, the opportunity, I think, that there is by using the telephone to increase your final expense sales and what's different about that. Then we're going to get into a little bit about the carriers and some of the differences and selling on the phone. And then we're going to do an FEX Quotes demo to see how FEX Quotes can help you sell, especially over the phone. And then Steve's going to close the show with what he believes is kind of the magic for making that connection over the telephone. So Brenda Davis from Atlanta says, sounds great. Well, thank you. Thank you, Brenda. First off, we have myself. I'm from SEMA. That's the Senior Insurance Marketing Association, free for agents to join, SIMA-net.com. Then we have Steve Modell from the Modell Brokerage Group. Steve will be doing most of the talking here. Thankfully for the rest of you, you don't have to listen to me so much. Then we also have Adam Barco from FEX Quotes. Now, Steve and Adam have been in the industry for quite some time. Adam has run FEX Quotes for a number of years, and as you'll see, it's one of the best tools out there for making sure that you have the information you need at the tip of your fingertips, which of course then increases your confidence and your ability to sell. He has a background Adam has a background originally with Prudential. He went independent in 1992. And he learned multi-line selling, and as an independent agent, he continued that multi-line approach while expanding into P&C. And he's always been kind of a tech guy. Adam and I have had a lot of great calls and great talks just about technology and our love for technology. I'm kind of a tech guy with some insurance background. Adam's more an insurance guy with just some really strong technology background and a great tool. Steve Modell, talking about Steve has over 20 years experience. His belief is to be passionate about providing the right coverage to his clients. He specializes in providing coverage for people with health conditions, age, high age, extenuating circumstances, that kind of thing. And Steve he knows more about final expense than I'll ever hope to forget. So these are our presenters today, and I'm very proud to welcome Steve and Adam to the show. So first, before we start, I'd like to talk a little bit about a survey that we did with SEMA and talk a little bit about what we learned about the final expense product, what it is, and where it's going. First off, final expense is a hot product right now, and of course, given the aging population, consumer demand, of course, is high for final expense. And further, in a down economy, a lot of people are, they want to make sure their loved ones aren't burdened with burial costs, first and foremost. And, it's a great product to sell right now. And it also, of course, it can provide some pretty nice commissions, averaging in excess of $500 a policy. With enough prospects, the right approach, final expense has become sort of a hot product. It's a new product, too, we've found. And it seems that 75% of the final expense producers have been selling the product 5 years or less. And that was pretty shocking to me. And only 9% in our survey have sold the product for 20-plus years or more. It's not a product that people tend to look for, but it's a product that can be sold very nicely. And it's a product that provides a really, really strong service at a time of need to the consumer. It's quick to sell. It's got a simple app, especially with certain carriers that are aligned to selling on the phone. And this product tends to stick with agents. Agents who start don't really seem to drop it. 75% of agents produce 10 policies or so or less per month. Some agents, however, are able to produce quite a bit. About 7% of agents we surveyed produce more than 26 policies per month, which would provide in excess of about $150,000 in annual income. And you think of all those people, 26 times 12, all those people that the agent is helping at a time of need. I think it's an awesome opportunity. It tends to be an old school type product. That is, agents tend to use telephone, fax, maybe email, but I think they may be falling short. And these days, with obviously quoting tools like FEX quotes, for instance, and auto dialers, things like CRMs, things like that, agents don't have to stick old school. And we're going to learn some tips today about how to sell over the phone. Quoting is important. Leads aren't exactly what you think they are. We'll find out a little bit about that. And cross-selling is also important to the agents who say they sell final expense. A lot of them cross-sell from Medicare, Supplement or Advantage. Some of them also cross-sell from life as well. So that's pretty much my kind of a background. So you can kind of think a little bit about where you fit in. Now we talk about selling products, and there's obviously a lot of ways to sell products. Many people, when they sell Medicare products, they sell face-to-face. And a lot of people sell final expense face-to-face. It does really well. I think someone was mentioning to me that they close about 90% of the people that they sit in front of the kitchen table and drink their coffee. But obviously, what's interesting about this topic is that if you sell over the phone, I think there's some advantages. And Steve, now I'll stop babbling here and pass the baton over to you. Can you talk a little bit about why you think it's important that agents also learn how to sell over the phone for final expense?
Well, thanks. Let me just say this before you get started. So I'm an agent. I've been doing this for 25 years. My focus is personal production at this point. This is my second webinar. They asked me to do it before. I kind of did it as a favor and just to try to give you guys some information. We were kind of inundated with phone calls after about agents asking, about contracting and everything. And we do that, but we do that on a limited basis. We really don't contract a lot of agents.
Mm-hmm.
And, so we can talk to you about that after, but that's not my main purpose on the phone call. My main purpose on the phone call is to try to share with you guys my background, some of the things I'm doing, and really just to try to help you. So with that said,
Sure.
As far as selling over the phone, let me define terms. Selling over the phone basically means that you're not required to go out and physically meet with the client and get an application. So that's how I define selling over the phone. There are certain companies, for instance, Oxford Life or Monumental Life, that say that you must be sitting face-to-face with the client in order to sell our product. So those products are not eligible for selling over the phone. There's other companies like United Home Life that require a signature but will allow you to do it via mail or email or fax. And there's other companies that allow you to do, an electronic app. As far as why you start selling over the phone, it's a question of simple economics. First of all, gas today is close to $4 a gallon. That's one problem. Second problem is when we used to do final expense, most of the leads were mail drop leads. And those mail leads have gotten more expensive over the years as the price of postage has gone up and as the returns have gone down. And if you do the mail leads and you start driving all over town and knocking on doors, which is the way it was done, because a lot of times people didn't put a phone number on those things, it just didn't work. I mean, because your average cost of a lead could be $35, $40, $45 a lead. You're out there knocking on doors. You're driving around all over the place. And, the average life in the final expense sale is about $500 a premium. So it just really doesn't work, and the economics are getting worse, not better. If you sell over the phone, and as Mark said, the closing ratio for a good agent will be over 90% face-to-face. Over the phone, it may only be 30%. But you can just cover a lot more territory. And a guy like me, I'm licensed in 45 states. So I get leads all the time, all over the place. And even if I'm closing 30%, I can get a lot more done with a lot less wear and tear.
Right, beautiful. And you mentioned, I think, one of the things that struck me in our conversations Steve, was the keys to selling final expense. Really, it starts with preparation. I think you had said, right? And can you talk a little bit about? I mean, you don't want to just pick up the phone and start trying to dial people and selling them final expense. What do you need to get ready to sell final expense over the phone?
Well, yeah. First of all, you have to have a system. Now, usually the system with final expense is going to start with leads. And let me address this also. There's a lot of different ways to get leads. There's companies you can buy leads from. There's IMOs and FMOs that'll provide you with leads. You can go to existing clients, and you have to take a look at that. Now, and again, some confusion comes in. If you guys go to an IMO or an FMO that's providing leads, you have to give them your business. You can't go to an INO and FMO and ask them to give you leads and then put the business elsewhere, because these guys are not in the leads business. If you're using your own third-party leads and using a company like NetQuotes or Hometown Quotes or Age Leads or whatever you're doing, then you put your business wherever you want. So it's important to understand that. But once you figure out how you're going to get your leads and what you're going to do, and that's important, and you have to have a budget, then you also need certain tools, and you have to be set up in advance. Now, the tools involved, one of the things that Adam said when we first got on the call here was it probably would be a good idea to call in from your phone rather than go on the dial in from the computer. The reason he said that is because when you're selling over the phone, you've got to be good at setting up a three-way call, because usually you've got to do a conference call with the examiner from the company. And a lot of times they require you to do it on the spot. But even if they don't and they're willing to do it after the fact, you don't want to do it after the fact. You want to get it done on the spot. So you need to have two phone lines. You need to know how to do a three-way call. I think it's really important for you to have FEX quotes on your computer and know how to use it. You've got to have your basic carriers. We've got an example on the screen here: United Home, Gerber, Mutual of Omaha, Surety. Those are four really good companies to start with. You may want to mix in a few others. You need to understand the requirements that these companies have. For instance, United Home Life is going to require you to do a three-way phone interview. United Home Life is not open on the weekends. You need to know that. Gerber Life, everything can be done on the computer with an electronic signature. Same with Mutual of Omaha and Surety. So every company operates a little differently, but you've got to know the rules of the game before you get started. Because if you can't operate quickly and efficiently when you've got that client on the phone, you are not going to close that sale. And trying to go back for a do-over later is going to lower your closing ratio dramatically.
Gotcha. And you mentioned the need for practice. And how does an agent practice that kind of thing, do you think?
Well, a great way to practice, there's a couple of ways. One, you could just call family and friends and say, hey, look, I'm getting into this, and I'm doing it over the phone, so can I practice my pitch on you? And they'll say, sure.
Yeah.
That's one way to do it. And that you'll also generate some sales by doing that. The other way, obviously, is you go back to some good existing clients, warm clients. Can I practice on you? And you do that,
right.
And you will generate some sales that way also. And then the third thing you do is you just dive in and start doing it. And a lot of insurance agents suffer from the I'm getting ready to get ready syndrome. I'm studying, I'm preparing. When I first got started in the life insurance business about 25 years ago, there was a guy that was studying. He would sit at his desk and studying. Well, what are you studying for? I'm studying for my CLU. And we used to joke, I'm not going to give you his whole name, but the CLU hardly have a clue. The guy never got on the phone, never did anything. So you don't want to do that. You want to dive in. You want to get started. A really good way to learn how to use a new company, like let's say you wanted to use Life Shield, which is a company we have that could show up on FEX quotes. Eventually you just use it. You write it up. And that's another way to learn. Or you associate yourself. Again, going back with IMOs and FMOs, there are IMOs and FMOs that can teach you. But what I'm going to tell you guys is that working with an IMO and an FMO is a two-way street. I mean, there's things that you're going to look for from them, and there's things they're going to look for from you. But if you get into a relationship with an IMO where it's like you want, top contracts and give you leads and, want them to call you back in 5 minutes, you're never going to get that from an IMO that's really focused in a vertical market like this. there are organizations that'll do that, but there's always a trade-off. And I think that what you really want to look for is you want to get some expertise to try to avoid a lot of the mistakes that you would make on your own. But however you do it, the main thing, there's a guy named John Wooden. I don't know if you guys ever heard of him. He was a very famous basketball coach with UCLA, and he wrote a book, which I recommend, called Be Quick, But Don't Hurry. And he talks about preparation. Have all your ducks in a row so that when you get that client on the phone, you're able to operate smoothly and efficiently and close that sale.
Right, gotcha. That's great stuff. Thanks, Steve. Well, and then we look here by way of preparation here. We're also talking about carriers and which carriers are you going to use, which products are you going to use, etc. And here we see a sample output from FEX Quotes, find a quote engine tool, and we see a whole bunch of different. It's a lot of information here, but you mentioned to me, I think, that there are some carriers that are different, especially when you start talking about selling over the phone, correct?
Right. So, like this printout is for a 50-year-old from Pennsylvania, and it says Modell Brokerage Group at the top. So this came from our version of FEX Quotes. And this has a lot of really good information on it, and this is a vital tool, but it is not sufficient for you to do business. FEX Quotes alone won't get it done. There's other things you have to know. For example, if I read down this list, I know off the top of my head that Oxford Life is only face-to-face. I know that New Era and Philadelphia American are identical, and they can be sold over the phone. UCT face-to-face, Colorado Bankers face-to-face, Assurity over the phone, Mutual of Omaha, over the phone, and so on and so forth. So I know that by looking at it. And I have tables, I have other tools so that it's not just in my head, right? And then there's other things you need to know. Like if you scroll down on the list and you see Equitable Life, 3209. So you may say, well, why would you use Equitable, right? It's number 20 on the list. Because if they have COPD and they don't smoke, Equitable Life is the only company that's going to give them an immediate death benefit. I mean, I know that. And you guys can learn that, or let's say that they're 5'2", 400 pounds, for instance. If we scroll down the list and we see Royal Neighbors, 3791, they don't use a height and weight chart, or we go further down the list. At the bottom of the list is American Memorial, right, 5625. Why would you use them? Because if they had cancer 13 months ago, American Memorial is the only company that's going to give them an immediate death benefit. So these are some of the things that you have to know. You also need to know about contracting, appointments. A company like Equitable won't let you write a case unless you're appointed in that particular state, and you got to pay the fee first. Standard Life, it's sort of the same thing, but you can write the case and get appointed later. So, again, if you're finding out all of these things the hard way, you're just going to lose business. It's just not going to happen. So you have to get prepared either by working with others or by studying on your own or however you do it. But in order to write a lot of business, Mark talked about people that write, I don't know, 27 policies a month or something like that. I mean, I could tell you, some weeks I write 10, 12 policies a week. But in order to have that kind of output, you've got to have yourself prepared and know what you're doing.
Right. Gotcha. Good stuff, Steve. Thanks. Well, and you talk a lot about self-sufficiency, too. I mean, going out there and learning all this stuff, getting ready and getting prepared. I think it's important to, as you mentioned, to be able to kind of be on your own, right? I mean, as you go on the phone.
Well, look, when you do business, there's different ways to do it. One way is you can have contracts directly with carriers. The other way is you can go through IMOs and FMOs, or you can do a combination, right? And there's pros and cons to doing all those different things. But the main thing is, even if you're going through an IMO or an FMO, it's still your business. And when you're doing final expense over the phone, you may be working in different time zones, for instance. And let's say you get a lead from somebody in Hawaii, and it's 11 o'clock at night, Eastern time. Well, in Hawaii, it's 5 o'clock, so it's late for you, but it's normal for him. And I had a case like this. Guy contacted me. He's buying MetLife. He said he was 6'2", 280 pounds. insulin diabetes. MetLife quoted him $165 a month for $25,000 of insurance. I said, well, first of all, MetLife is guaranteed issue, so that means you got a 2-year wait. He says, yeah. I said, second of all, is there anything else wrong with you? I mean, you have insulin diabetes. Any problems? He goes, no. So I looked up United Home Life, $25,000 with an immediate death benefit was $141 a month. I said, why wouldn't you do that? And he said, I don't know. Why wouldn't I? So I said, look, that you're going to get more coverage, less money, no waiting period. There's no reason to do MetLife. He said, okay. What do we do next? I said, look, I don't have a Hawaii license. I'll get one. I'm sure it's not going to be cheap, but I just want to know that you're going forward before I spend the money. He said, absolutely. So I went and got my Hawaii license, called him back a couple days later. We did United Home Life. I did $35,000 of coverage for $167 a month, and the case went through. Now, you guys can do the math. You know, people on the phone, $167 a month times 12. Now, I'm not going to tell you what my contract level is, but even at 100 points, that's $2,000, right?
Yeah,
but
nice case.
Why was I able to do the case? Because, you know, I had the wherewithal. I knew about getting contracted. I knew what United Home Life would do. I was able to get it done quickly, and I got the case done. And you're not going to be able to call somebody at 10 o'clock or 10:30 at night and have them walk you through anything. You've got to have enough on the ball to either get it done or at least get to the guy to the point where he's waiting for your next call so you can wrap things up.
Right, definitely. And you know, you don't know what you don't know either. It's a danger. As you mentioned, the guy made the wrong choice because he didn't know. And if you're, as the agent, don't know that he could do better either, you know, preparation, your lack of preparation not only hurts your ability to get the sale done, but it also hurts the consumer, doesn't it?
Right. I mean, how did I know that MetLife only sold a guaranteed issue? Because they don't sell through agents. Because people have asked me about it before, so I went online and looked into it. The same way I know what Globe Life sells, and Colonial Penn, right? And, you know, all the other companies that I run into, so that I know how to knock it out. And AARP, right? I know what they sell because that's my competition. There's a guy named Tom Hopkins, has a real good book, The Art of Selling Anything. And Hopkins says you've got to know what your competition sells. That's how you can deal with it. You can knock it out. I could tell you guys something on this phone. There's no insurance company that sells anything direct to the general public that's better than what you can sell, with one exception. Mutual of Omaha has a guaranteed issue that goes up to age 85. And usually you're not going to have a guaranteed issue past 80. So if you run into somebody that's really sick between 80 and 85, you can just direct them to Mutual of Omaha directly and do them a favor. But other than that, there's nothing that's being sold directly by these companies that's better than what you have. And you need to know that.
Right. Very good. It goes back to confidence and preparation. Well, so let's talk a little bit about leads. And, you know, some agents here are mentioning on chat, you know, tell us about leads. And this, more than any other industry or sub-industry, it seems that final expense, there's more confusion about leads in this little subset of the industry than in anything I've seen. And can you talk a little bit about why that is? I mean, people really aren't looking for final expense, quote unquote, correct?
Well, okay, so we did the webinar last week. And after the webinar last week, I got buried with phone calls from agents that wanted to contract with us, and everything was all about leads. And there was a lot of confusion. So let me just try to give you guys some input. First of all, as far as leads, generally speaking, you're going to have to roll your own. You're going to have to learn about leads, try different sources, and figure out what works for you. I mean, that's one way to do it. Your other way to do it is to marry up with an IMO or an FMO that has a leads program that you think is good. And then if you do that, you've got to move all your contracts to them, right? Because there's no IMO or FMO they're not in the leads business. They're not going to just provide you with leads and let you put the business wherever you want. So it's one or the other, and you guys can make your choices. If you're going to roll your own, if you're going to learn about the leads, the way to do it is to try different lead vendors, and you got to keep a scorecard and figure out what's working for you. Because, like, I'm going to give you an example, like NetQuotes, okay? I've used NetQuotes. I thought they were terrible. But I have other agents that are contracted under me that use NetQuotes, and do a lot of business. Same thing with Life Leads Direct. I tried them. I hated them. I know Adam used them. He liked them. I got other agents that use them. They love them. So it's not just it's a matter of personal style. It's a matter of what works for you. I can tell you this. When I evaluate a lead source, one of the things I look for is for every dollar I spend on a lead, I'm looking for $5 of commission back. That's my benchmark.
Wow.
If it's $5 or better, I'm happy. If it's worse, I'm not happy. That's what you want to look for. Now, Mark asked me to evaluate a lead source the other day. I said, fine, I'll talk to the guy. And I spent 20 minutes or 15 minutes with him on the phone, and my analysis was I didn't think he was legitimate. That's what I thought.
Right.
And
I agree.
And that's the other thing that you need to try to figure out, because a lot of these lead companies, like they'll say that they're selling shared leads to 3 agents. It may be 33 agents.
Right.
There's a lot
There's
of
no
scam
real
artists
limit
out there. Right. So you really have to bear down and either become more of an expert on your own, on what's out there, what works for you, what you're happy with, or associate yourself with an IMO or an FMO that you want to work with. And then if you do that and then you're buying leads, you've got to be willing to move your contracts under them. You can't go to an IMO and say, I want your lead system, but by the way, I've got 125 points here, there, and the other place, and I'm not moving my contracts. No one's going to do that.
Right.
So does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And you made a point about tracking your results. A lot of agents don't track their cost per acquisition, or they call it CPA in the leads business. And sometimes a $2 lead might be the most expensive lead you ever bought if you don't close any of them. And sometimes that $35 lead might be the best money you ever spent. I think agents really need to track their leads across lead sources and see which ones are closing. Also, the other thing
let me
interject
something about the cost per acquisition. So that's a good point. That leads me back to why sell over the phone. When I first started doing it and started analyzing it, that the cost per acquisition or the cost per sale, right, when you're not selling over the phone, tends to be dramatically higher. Because you've got to factor in the travel time and how many leads you have to buy and everything else. And again, if the average final expense sale is $500, and even if you're, let's say, on a 100% contract, and usually it's going to be a 9-month annualization, so maybe you're going to get, upfront $350, $400, something like that. But if your cost per acquisition is $250, how does that work? Or $300, how does that work? You're going to be out of business fast. Right,
absolutely. Yep, that's all important stuff. And Adam, you had talked a bunch of times about how leads, and they're not who you think they are. I mean, these aren't people out there raising their hand for final expense, and you call them and you say, "Hey, I understand you want to buy final expense." It doesn't work that way, does it?
No, it's even though I'm working with FEX quotes and the final expense market, FEX is an acronym for final expense. I'm still having a great deal of difficulty at times dealing with the concept of final expense. Agents are talking about final expense as if it's something new, as if it's something totally different than any other type of insurance. It's not. In fact, I don't know if any of you guys participate on the insurance forum, but there was a discussion very recently this week about final expense. And how it's how final expense is this new hot market. It's something different. It's life insurance. That's all it is. It's life insurance. It's low face amount, simplified issue life insurance. I mean, typically these are these are policies that are rated standard to Table 4 out of the gate. Very easy to write and easy to sell. It's life insurance is all it is. And And that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about selling life insurance. Forget final expense. Just get that out of your head, because it's life insurance that we're selling. So who are the people that you want to be talking to. That's what I used to. Who do you want to talk to? You want to talk to people. You want to be talking to people. And again, and I'm going to stop right there. You talk about leads. This leads source, net quotes, like leads direct, telemarketed leads. There's a million sources. All the lead is somebody to talk to. So if you're just keeping busy talking to people, you're going to sell insurance by accident. It's that simple. You're going to get a lot of pushback, a lot of resistance, a lot of people hanging up on you, excuses galore, and you really need thick skin to survive in this business. And it just goes. It's been that way since the beginning of time. But if you talk to enough people, eventually you're going to talk to somebody that wants to talk to you about life insurance. The one thing that I personally have never been able to do. I know a lot of life guys, like you talk about that guy, analysis paralysis, studying for the CLU. These guys like to call themselves financial advisors, estate planners, whatever crazy euphemism you want to apply. If you just talk life insurance, people will talk to you, and it's neat because in the final expense marketplace, the lower face amounts, that's all it is. The folks that you're talking to, they don't know from final expense. Maybe some people do, but for the most part, that's an industry term. It's something that we call it. To the rest of the world, it's life insurance. Burial
and
insurance,
I think, coming from the
insurance
insurance industry, coming from the carrier side, we were talking jargon so much that, we make our heads spin, and the consumers didn't know a single thing of what we were talking about. I think getting your head in your mind in the head of the consumer is pretty important. Using words that they understand and products they're looking for, right?
Exactly, and another point. I went a little bit off on that tangent. One of my favorite lead sources, and they're still in play, and I'm going to share it with you guys. I love it. They're called Life Leads Direct. They're internet leads, and you can cherry pick the leads. In other words, you can preview the lead before you purchase the lead. You see everything about the lead. What their age is, what they said they're looking for, and health conditions if they fill it out. Here's my trick. Here's the $1 million tip, guys. Pay attention. Write this down. Life Leads Direct. You cherry pick the leads. I'm looking for people that have health conditions. Got to understand where these leads come from. They're internet leads. When people fill out a form on the internet for life insurance, you're going to see typically that it's term life insurance. That's number one. And the people answer the defaults. But you might go to, you've seen these, websites out there that, get a quote on your life insurance. And what they want to do is they want to get through the form quickly. They're not taking their time and filling it out and making their selection. So you see a 62-year-old guy that this is what the lead looks like on the surface. It looks like he's asking for a 20-year term, $250,000. Now, I can guarantee you that I don't know how many people are in this room right now listening. Over 100 people. Out of the 100 people, who would consider that to be a final expense lead? Probably nobody. I do. I like it. I'm calling the guy because
that's where the cherry picking comes in, right?
Yeah, because he's looking for life insurance. He's 60-some years old. Does he really understand what the implications of term insurance are? There's some people out there that absolutely understand it. I'm not totally discounting it, but for the most part, I guarantee you, out of 10 of those people, 8 of them aren't looking for $250,000 of insurance. They're not looking for 20-year term. They're looking for life insurance. So just have an intelligent conversation about life insurance, and
gotcha.
It will naturally turn itself into a final expense sale.
Right, right. Kind of a little bit
of
a backwards approach, but I think it's a good one. And that kind of leads us to our next topic. We're talking about fact-finding. And, Steve, you talked a lot about fact-finding and, getting to work and, taking that order, no nonsense, 2 minutes or less, Okay, a couple of comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, look, there was a couple of comments here also about is this a pitch for life leads. Like, nobody on this webinar is selling leads.
Absolutely.
We're just trying to give you guys some information that may help you. But, look, a lead is a lead is a lead. However you get face-to-face, either in person or over the phone in front of somebody, that's all that matters, that you have somebody on a favorable base that needs what you do. Now, as far as people say, well, what kind of a pitch do you use? What's the script? Look, everybody has their own style, but I'll tell you what I do. Mrs. Jones, thank you for responding. My name's Steve Modell with Modell Brokerage. May I ask your date of birth? Do you smoke? What state do you live in? Can I have your phone number in case we get disconnected? Do you have HIV, cancer, heart disease, or diabetes? Do you have any life insurance now? How much coverage are you looking for? I mean, that's it. She may say, well, what's this about? But it's a lead, so usually she responded. Or she may say, well, how much insurance do you think I should get? Well, I don't know.
Sure.
Are you just looking for burial and final expenses, or do you want more coverage than that? Well, I'd like to leave something for my kids. Well, how many kids do you have? I have 5 kids. Well, what were you looking to do?
Yeah, get right to business.
$100,000. Oh, okay. I mean, you have to develop the case, but you do it quickly. Are you retired? I'm retired. I'm a retired school teacher. Oh, okay. Did you take a pension? Do you have a 403B? So you ask questions, but once you figure out what she wants, I'm just looking for $15,000 of coverage. Okay. And then I would go on the screen. I'd look at FEX quotes. I'd run some quotes. $15,000. It's going to cost you about $65 a month. Do you have a checking account or savings account? No. She could say yes, no, or she could say nobody takes anything out of my checking account. I don't have a checking account. Right? Okay, fine.
Sure.
So what do I do when she says that to me? No problem. I quote United Home Life because I know United Home Life will do a direct bill. I'll
There's
do that.
The prop again, right?
I mean, again, you have to know where to go with it.
Right.
Or they'll say, well, I don't have my money now. Oh, okay. Well, do you get a check on the 3rd of every month? Yeah, I get it on the 3rd. Okay. Do you have a direct express debit card from the government? Oh, yeah, that's what I have. Okay. Well, if they have direct express debit, I know that the only company that'll do that over the phone is Liberty Bankers Life. Yeah. Again, you need to know this stuff, but you get it. You roll into it. You know what you need to do, and then you would say, all right, Mrs. Jones, what I'd like to do is let's see if you qualify. I'm going to conference call in United Home Life now, and we'll take about 10 minutes to see if you qualify for the insurance. We'll get an answer. Do you have about 10 minutes? Yes. And then we conference them in, and we take an app. And that's pretty much how it works.
Right. Interesting. Okay, well, and it's kind of continuing on here. So we got the prep, we talked about the leads, we talked about the fact finding, and then we also, I think, you have to talk about tools. Now, we're kind of running long here, so I'm going to kind of speed this up a little bit. But there's a lot of tools that agents should use when they sell over the phone. Obviously, FEX quotes is a given, but I think we also have. You mentioned that you get some information from the carrier websites. You have other, paper information at your disposal. You might have a dialer. You might have a CRM. Actually, there's a CRM built right in FEX quotes. But what other tools, real quick, are important? Would you say to have when you?
Okay, so you have FEX quotes on your screen. You need that. The other thing you need. And, I have this built on my website for agents that work through us, but however you want to do it, you need a height and weight chart. I use United Home Life as a good one, but you can use whatever you want because that's definitely one of the questions that you need to ask. You need copies of the applications. Again, I have that on my website for agents, but have it on your desktop someplace. You need sample apps because you need to ask them questions. If you had a heart attack, cancer, whatever, and you got to go through the questions to see if they're going to qualify. Those are the things that you need to be able to do these things quickly. I see some questions here in the sidebar about persistency with monthly billing. It's true it's not as good, but I have a lot of cases that actually stay on the books with that. The Direct Express also stay on the books. I used to think for instance, that you had to deliver every policy in person or it wouldn't stay on the books. I learned that that's not true. By the way, guys, and I'm not bragging, I'm just telling you, my 2-year persistency is about 85%. You can do this successfully over the phone, but you've got to be thorough. One of the big things about persistency, don't oversell. Make sure they can afford what you're giving them. If anything, you dial it back a little bit. Right. If you think persistency and you do the right job, you will be able to do it over the phone and keep the stuff on the books.
Great.
Getting
into the demo, is it possible you could run a quick quote for us on FEX quotes, Steve?
If I can, what do? I click desktop here. Let me try this.
Yeah, just like last time.
All right, let's see if I can do it. Hold on.
Great. Yeah, you got control right now, and
so I got to run this any meeting, share screen. I'm on a different computer here. Hold on.
Yeah, just pull up FEX quotes. Pull up a browser and then pull up FEX quotes. And while
you want me to do it, Mark,
I
mean, I got it right here. If you want me to do it.
Oh yeah, great.
All right, Adam, you go ahead.
Okay, very good. Hold on. So I'm going to click the desktop. Okay, and hang on a second. Click in the upper right-hand corner. Okay. Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. That's. Oh.
Yeah, and then you can share.
I'm getting a pop-up.
There, I got something now, Adam. Looks like you got the screen. Okay, there we go.
Okay, all right. Okay.
So before we start here, Roberto asks, are you selling FEX quotes? Everyone's always looking for the angle here. We're providing a lot of information about final expense, including what we believe at SEMA is the best tool in the market. So take it as you will. But Adam, could you give a quick demo of how FEX quotes works?
Yeah, I mean, real quick and simple. I mean, you got your default screen. It's already ready to roll. You can put the insured's name in if you want. It may not be a bad idea. I'll put your name in, Mark.
All right.
We have to have a chat. We got to have a chat about your insurance. Anyway, I'm in New Jersey, so that's the default state. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just run a quote, and here we go. A male, age 50, New Jersey, 10,000. Non-smoker. I'm looking at all companies. Now, what Steve was showing you before, one of those things that you had the the printout of the quote, which
right.
is this. So you can print it out, but that's going to be the paper. But here it is right here. It's just
right. Nice.
And this is every yeah, that's it. I mean. That's the meat of it. I mean, there's a lot more to it. Maybe not so obviously, but that's essentially it. But but what I like about it is the edit screen. Up here, where if I just quoted 10,000 for somebody. So I use the 3-choice close. So I mean I'll do my 10,000, and I'm going to jot down about $25 a month. And then I'm going to do 15,000. Depending upon what you've developed. And now it's going to be about $35 a month, and then maybe we'll do a bigger one at 25,000. We're going to come up at around $55, $60 a month. So I'm going to write that down. And I've never been really good at asking people, do you want to buy this? I like asking them which one makes the most sense to you.
Right.
And,
kind of bookending a little bit, maybe. And
let me butt in, Adam. I don't do either of those. I tell them what we're going to do, and I assume consent. We're going to use United Home. We're going to see if you qualify. Do you have 5 or 10 minutes to do a 3-way phone interview to see if you qualify? So, someone asked about closing on this thing. So here's the thing with closing. You're asking questions from the beginning, right? Like the first thing I say, what's your date of birth? Where do you live? Right? You're asking questions. You control the conversation. And then at some point, you tell them this is what we're going to do. And that's the close. Do you have 10 minutes? Do you have 5 minutes to see if you qualify? That's the closing question. Somebody said, how do you nail down the sale? You assume consent, that they are buying. Your question is, do you have 5 or 10 minutes to see if you qualify? Do you see what I'm saying? And if you want to learn more about closing, anybody on the phone,
it's a matter of style. It's a matter of style. It's a matter of style.
I would recommend that you listen to Tom Hopkins, The Art of Selling Anything. That's my recommendation.
Oh, interesting. And yeah, I think there's probably a lot of methods out there. There are a lot of different products, and I know there's a lot of successful agents out there. It's when we get boiled down to the meat of it here, Steve, you had said some things to me I thought were pretty interesting. You're selling over the phone, and you've got a very short period of time to get somebody's attention and to somehow gain their trust. Can you talk a little bit about what you think the most important thing is about in terms of what's the magic in selling final expense over the phone?
Right. Well, look, and this is a comment, a little bit tongue-in-cheek. Where are the best salespeople in our society? The best salespeople in our society are locked up in jail. They're con men, right? Do they use different techniques than we use? No, it's the exact same techniques. So what's the difference between us and the con man? The difference is that we care, theoretically, about what happens to the person after they buy our product or service, right? So that's what makes you a top professional salesperson. You still need to know the techniques, but you have to care about what happens to these people. And for those of you on the phone that have been in the business for a number of years, that have paid death claims, that have received death claims, that have been around the horn, you'll know what I'm talking about. When you get somebody on the phone on the other end, they size you up pretty quickly. And what they're trying to figure out is, do you know what you're talking about? Do you have honesty and integrity, right?
Right.
And are you sincere? Now, they make a determination over the phone. It's a lot harder than when you're face-to-face, but it can still be done. So you have to find a way to reach out through the phone and to convey that, like I'm doing now on this webinar. The way I do it is because I do know what I'm talking about. I do care what happens to them, and I am sincere. You know, the truth will set you free. Now, if you want to try to fake those things, I guess you can, and that goes back to the comment about the con men being in jail. But really, the best way to do it is to do your homework, to study, really to care about people, and to try to do the right job for people. And if you really believe that and have your head on straight, and you're not just thinking about your next commission, then that's the magic. Then you'll get the results that you're looking for.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I often say I'm a terrible salesman, but what I try to do is I try to do what's right and what's best, and I learn something, and I try to do a service, and then the selling just kind of happens. It sounds like
and I'd like to add something
quickly on the phone. Sorry,
I'll add one piece to this component too. I learned a long time ago from my very first sales manager, and I still do it to this day. I speak to everybody as if I'm speaking to a friend or a family member. If I'm speaking to an older woman, I'm speaking to my mother. If I'm speaking to an older gentleman, I'm speaking to my father. If I'm speaking to somebody that's my contemporary, I'm speaking to my brother, my cousin. And
nice.
That's who I'm speaking to. That's my mental posture, and that I think conveys what Stephen was just talking about, sincerity.
Right, love it. Thank you, Adam. That's a great point. Well, and we're getting now to the Q&A section here. So thanks for listening. But let's take some of the questions here, and I'll field those questions here. And here's some information about FEX Quotes and their 10-day free look. FEXquotes.com. And we got Steve Modell, and there's a number of Jeanette Pepe, extra L there on the word call. And you can give her a call if you're interested in talking to Steve's organization. Also, Seamanet.com. So let's kind of go back here, and I'm going to kind of scoop up some of the questions that we've had. So what's the price for the quoting engine? Adam, can you talk a little bit about that? I think
it's $24.95 per month. We offer a 10-day free trial. You can put it through its paces and make your decision. I mean, if you're selling this type of insurance, we're confident that you'll know within 10 minutes, not 10 days, if this is going to work or not going to work for you. I think the product speaks for itself, and that's essentially it.
Great. Well, Roberto is still looking for the angle here while we are giving away this information. So, yeah. So Modell is top agent for SEMA. Well, SEMA is not a downline. SEMA does not sell insurance. So SEMA is what it is. It's basically a website. So Mr. Steve just here helping people understand what he knows.
With the angle. Let me just say something, and you guys can take it for what it's worth. I've been in the business a long time, and I've been pretty fortunate. And people helped me along the way. And I met Adam Barco through the insurance forum, and we got to be friendly, and he used his product. And he asked me to basically do him a favor. And I said, sure. And, you say, well, why would anybody do a favor? Why would you just do something? Because people have helped me along the way. And if there's something that I say to try to help you guys, and if you can become better insurance agents and help the general public, great. That's it.
Right.
What goes around comes around. Now, do we pick up agents from these? Yeah, I'll pick up a few agents, and that's fine, and we make a few dollars. But that's not the thing. The thing is to try to to give back to the insurance industry, to try to help people do the right job, so that you can go out when you meet with your customers, either in person or over the phone, and get them the most insurance for the least money. That's really what it's all about.
Right. Fantastic. Someone asks, what is the role of an FMO, and let's kind of take that question in the context of final expense.
An FMO, if it's a good FMO, brings something to the table other than just getting you contracted. So you guys have to determine what you're getting out of it. Some FMOs give you top contracts. That's their value proposition. Some talk about really good leads. They can have different carriers, or they can have expertise. Now, all of those things are good. Let's go to the expertise for a second. There's two parts to the life insurance business. There's the wholesale end, and then there's the retail end. Wholesalers are people that primarily deal with agents and get you to go out and do business with your people. Retail people deal with the general public. I think if you're dealing with a wholesaler, you want to deal with a wholesaler that has very strong retail background, either because they did it a lot or they still do it. If they have retail background, they're really going to give you some real-world input about how to actually use these things. If you're talking to a kid fresh out of college that's sitting in a cubicle someplace and giving you theoretical ideas about 529 plans you should be selling or whatever they're pushing that week, it's really not going to help you. It sounds good, but it's not real-world stuff. The real-world stuff is, what are the hours of the examiners? What forms do I need? Right? Will they take a money order for the initial premium, or can they draft the premium? That's the kind of information that you guys really need in order to be able to do business.
Right. And I've got a couple of questions specifically about, Eve asks, who would you recommend to a new agent that needs training in final expense?
Well, in the old days, we all went to MetLife or Prudential or John Hancock and got real training. And I did, and I know Adam did, and it's invaluable. I wouldn't trade the background, the training that I got with MetLife for anything. Unfortunately, there's not that many companies out there doing that today, right? Everybody comes out, or maybe from the health insurance world, and they want to be a broker. So I still go back. If you can work for a career company for a while, and if they're going to give you training and you can really learn the business, that's good. The other thing, if you guys look on the screen, you see where it says LUTCF after my name? That stands for Life Underwriting Training Council Fellow. Now, there's a lot of designations you can get. There's that. There's a CLU. There's a CHFC, CFP. The LUTCF is real-world training about selling in the life insurance business. There are, if you look at your local NAFA organization, which you all have, and they have classes with LUTC, very, very good to get yourself plugged in with that. So it's important to be trained. It's much harder today to learn the business. The MDRT is also an excellent organization. So, we talked about old school. Those are old school organizations that are dedicated to training. But if you don't make a commitment to learning about the business and doing the right job, you're just going to be a hack. You're going to be a policy pusher, and people are going to see right through it.
Right, got it. All right, excellent. A couple other quick questions. Where do we find, David asks, where do we find a website that lists the sell-by-phone companies?
You don't. I mean, I've given Adam that information and told him he ought to put it into FEX quotes. And
it's coming.
Maybe he will at some point. I know it. My agents would know it. But other than that, make your own table. It's just not. It doesn't exist out there.
Well, a few of them you mentioned, right here, United Home, Gerber, Surety.
I can tell you, and I went down the list. The companies, like the reason that on that screen, which is United Home, Gerber, Surety, and Mutual of Omaha, the reason Mark put those on the screen is because I said that if there was 4 companies that I was going to use right out of the box, it's those 4 companies. So if you want to make it real simple, for every one of you that's on this call, use United Home, Gerber Life, Surety, and Mutual Omaha as your 4 companies to get started, and you'll be on to a very good start. Every one of those companies sells over the phone. They're easy to work with, and you're going to cover a whole multitude of sins by using those companies. And that's the best place to get started.
Right. Fantastic. All right. I think, let's see. I think that's pretty much it here. Let's see. LUTCF is better than CLU. Just buy FEX quotes. Let's see. You go back to your. Do you go back to your phone sales book of business to sell more products? Ornetta asks.
I could and I should, but I don't. And the reason I don't is because I get buried with new business. So I have a good problem. But I could go back easily and do a ton of business. I mean, I know a lot of people on this call are struggling to find enough business, but, after a while you get to the point where you can't even keep up with what you have. And that's
right.
Where you want to get to. You want to build a business, and I get a lot of referrals too. And I'll share something with you guys. We always talk about referrals, and I never really did anything about it. And when I started doing a couple of years ago, is I started asking people when I did a job for them, "Are you happy with the work I did?" And they said yes. Great. Can you please email me a testimonial? And I got them to start sending me testimonials. And then I started showing testimonials to the people I was talking to. And that works magic. I mean, that works great.
Right, great. Okay, one last one here. Looks like this one's for Adam. Does the FEX quote engine deliver identical quotations from the individual carrier website? Sure what that question really means. Okay.
It better.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know you.
No, we have better rates.
Making that right.
we have better rates. Yes.
Right, your rates are better than the carrier.
Our rates are better. Right.
If you use FEX quotes, you don't need the carrier websites.
Right. Yeah, I know you put a lot of work into making sure those quotes are pretty darn accurate, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, okay. Accuracy is priority number one. And we do have a disclaimer that human error can occur, but we've been doing this for a while, and it is very, very, very rare that there is an error. I always say, before you, and I myself, all right, this is my company, I write this business, and I'm going to tell you right now, every time I write a case, I double check it against the company's rates. I'm just call that anal. But I know a lot of guys have gotten very comfortable with it. They just know that the rates are right, and
sure.
And you can go with it. But me personally, again, this is the FEX is my baby. I write business. I still double check against the company. But I mean, I proofread my app 2-3 times, dot every I, cross every T. I mean, it's not just about the rates. It's about making sure that the app is complete. Neatness and accuracy counts. So I mean, that's just my whole thing.
Professionalism, sure.
Yeah. Now I will say this: there will be some inaccuracies that come up, and as soon as, but not with the rates, with state approvals. because that's one of the other things that we provide. Other quote engines will give you the rates, but not the state approval, and it's up to you to go determine whether or not that product is approved in the state. FEX Quotes does have the state approvals. When a product changes, like for example, Americo just recently had a rate change, a product change, and it wasn't approved in all of the states. And when we got the new rates, we did not get the state approvals, but we put the new rates up right away, and we were using the old state approvals. There was a couple of states where it was the new program was not yet approved. So you do got to double check it, but if a product has been out for a while, I say a while, I'm talking a month. If it's over 30 days, you can pretty much guarantee that it's accurate. If there's a change in a program, there may be a little discrepancy. The rate's going to be good, but the question is it in fact approved in that state?
Right.
It's priority number one. If there's something that's wrong, we drop everything. I say everything. And
make it right.
In the middle of the day, we'll do an update. So,
right. Great.
It's accurate.
Yeah, well, great. Well, thank you so much, guys, for the wonderful job in the presentation. Steve was awesome. Adam, thank you. And the information is here, and we'll be putting this up in SEMA Pro, the recorded version of this webinar for anyone who's a SEMA Pro member. Agents can join SEMA for free. And any questions on this webinar, you can email me, mark@sema-net.com. Anything about FEX Quotes, just go to fexquotes.com, and all the information you need is there, including a 10-day free look you can sign up for right away. And then there's a number if you'd like to talk to Steve, Jeanette Pepe, and she's at that number that's shown there. Thank you one more time, presenters, and thank you, audience, a great audience and a lot of awesome questions. We'll close for now, and thanks once again. Bye, guys.
See ya.